As Proserpina was playfully picking flowers, it all happened almost at once. Pluto saw her, fell in love, and grabbed her. The goddess, terrified, cried out with a pitiful voice, to her mother and her companions, but more often to her mother.
With his new bride, Pluto entered his domain of the dead, where Cerberus, the three-headed dog, keeps watch. A brief, intense, and life-changing moment, forever captured in stone by the most brilliant sculptor of his time, Gian Lorenzo Bernini. The artist was in his early 20s when he was repeatedly commissioned by the most powerful art collector of 17th century Rome. In his first assignment, Bernini carved an ancient hero carrying his old father to safety. His next work was meant to impress in a rather different way. For his second project, as well as for the third, the subjects were chosen from Ovid's Metamorphoses. This ancient Roman book was a collection of action-packed short stories in which the metamorphosis or transformation forms a recurrent theme. More often than not, it also features young females facing a male aggressor. While this sculpture's focus is on the latter theme and not on transformation, it is fair to say that Bernini did in fact create a metamorphosis when you compare it with any sculpture that came before. First, in the material itself. Sculptors had reshaped the stuff of mountains into human forms for thousands of years. But more than any artist before him, Bernini was able to give crude marble any shape and texture as if it were as malleable as clay. Muscle, fur, cloth, even tears. It is all there and meticulously planned, as can be seen from this clay model of Proserpina's marble face. Bernini's exceptional skill becomes even more evident when we take into account the specific sculpture he aimed to surpass, the abduction of the Sabine woman. This is a masterpiece from the late 16th century by the Flemish artist Jean de Boulogne, or as he was called in Florence, Giambologna. Although unparalleled in its dynamic composition, its overall appearance remains somewhat rigid and lacks variation in texture. A comparison of both abductors' backsides reveals that while Bernini is clearly indebted to Giambologna, he evidently surpasses him in the treatment of anatomic detail. Even the most athletic body cannot sustain tension uniformly across all muscles simultaneously, and Bernini proves to be acutely aware of this. But there is more. The captor's fingers that sink into his victim's flesh. This was not Bernini's own idea, but clearly an imitation of Giambologna's invention. Nevertheless, artistic greatness rarely involves complete originality. True genius makes good ideas work even better. And Giambologna's good idea is somewhat hidden from the general public. It is only discovered by the minority who actually climb up the platform where the statue stands. Only then, while the abducted woman is seen from the back, does this particular detail become apparent. Bernini turned it into a much more dominant feature of his Pluto and Proserpina, a detail you simply cannot miss, and continues to captivate all who come to look at it. Let's finally consider the victim's hair. Should that not be catching wind as she is carried off with fearsome speed? Yes, of course it should. Bernini clearly wanted to do things that were never done before, but his greatest challenge became to surpass himself. It's up to you to decide if he succeeded with his next statue in my other video about Daphne.